And also, no one told me I'd have to do this from a climbing wall. It's quite terrifying standing up here, I can assure you. Now, probably like most of you, 2 years ago, I had absolutely no idea what fracking was. It's a very, very steep learning curve, believe you me. Once I began to look into it, I realised that this was an industry with not just national or local repercussions, this has international repercussions, and as such has got to be stopped. Some people had said to me that losing the vote at Kirby Misperton is the end of the matter. Thank you. I say to them, it's not the end of the matter, this is the beginning. How can we let down 4,375 people who wrote to North Yorkshire objecting to the application to frack at Kirby Misperton, and leave the 36 correspondents who supported the motion the field? This is an industry that in our part of the world, and I suspect virtually everywhere else, has absolutely no social licence. And I repeat that, there is no social licence to do this anywhere. To keep you up to date with what's happening in Ryedale, in conjunction with Friends of the Earth, we have submitted an application to have judicial review based on the council's failure to address climate change and also the issue of a bond. As far as I know, Third Energy have not replied, but you can be certain that they will, probably on the day of the deadline. Can I make a plea to everybody here that this is an incredibly expensive operation? We're a very small area, we're a very small group. We need all the money that we can get. If anybody feels that they can contribute to Frack Free Ryedale on this issue, please have a look at the Frack Free Ryedale website and see what they can do. Now, internationally, as I said, the world cannot afford to seek out a new fossil fuel. Nationally, as the Committee on Climate Change recent report has shown, the government cannot afford to support a shale gas industry and stay within its climate change commitments. But it is in the local areas, in Yorkshire, in Lancashire, in Derbyshire, in Nottinghamshire, in Sussex, in the Forest of Dean, and many other places where the fight is really going on, and where people have woken up to the realisation, as we've heard today, that this is on their doorstep. The dangers to health, water, livestock and infrastructure are well documented and I think well understood. The disruption of lives by increased traffic and the influx of temporary labour are all too evident in the USA and Australia. Jim Ratcliffe, who quite rightly is coming for some stick today, and I hope he comes in for a bit more, has said that such problems are hearsay and scaremongering. Now this is a very strange attitude for Mr. Ratcliffe to take, being as Range Resources, one of his major gas suppliers in the United States, has just passed the $15 million mark in fines for violations. Now either Mr. Ratcliffe is not careful of the people he mixes with, or he really doesn't know anything about them. So if Mr. Ratcliffe doesn't believe what we know, maybe he'll believe what the industry, his industry, have told us. INEOS recently published a diagram showing that within a 10k by 10k licence area there will be 30 well pads with between 12 and 14 wells on each pad. Now, to put that in a local context, standing here, you can move north to Strensall. From Strensall, you can move west to the A1, you can move south to Rufforth, and from Rufforth back here. That is the area that we are talking about. It is not a very big area indeed. Now, for each of those well pads, which should cover about a hectare, in old money that's about just over 2 acres, there will be between 17 and 28 acres needed for infrastructure. That is pipelines, compressor stations, access roads. I don't need to do the maths, you can do the maths. John Dewar, in front of the Parliamentary Committee, chaired by Anne McIntosh, our late MP, told the committee that in Ryedale, Third Energy were planning to frack on 19 sites, with up to 50 wells on each site. Now, what about proximity to dwelling places? INEOS have said that they think that 400 metres is a reasonable distance to have a well from a dwelling place. They're generous. They are generous. In a reply to Kevin Hollingreich, the government told him they were not prepared to put a minimum distance from a well to a dwelling place. This is a long, long way from Kevin Hollingreich's 1 mile that he was suggesting when he came back from Pennsylvania and conveniently seems to have forgotten. Lorry movements. In 2014, Ernst Young produced a report called Getting Ready for Shale. Now, in this report, they anticipated that one of the major obstacles to getting public support for fracking was the number of lorry movements that would be required in an area. And to coin a good Yorkshire phrase, by gum they were right. At the moment, wastewater cannot be stored on site or taken away, but has to be taken away for treatment. That may change, but at the moment that is what will happen. In Ryedale, which is where I will come from, that will mean lorries, hundreds and hundreds of lorry movements on totally unsuitable roads, or where the roads are suitable, they are major tourist routes in the summer months. Now, Jim Ratcliffe may say that this is hearsay as well. Well, if he says that, he's not listening to his senior members of his staff. Tom Crotty, director of INEOS, is quoted as saying his company intend to frack on an industrial scale. Now, you can't get a lot clearer than that. I would say that to preserve this country and this county as a healthy place for our grandchildren and our children to live in, this is an industry that we need to stop, and it's a cause worth fighting for. And that's why I'm here today. Thank you.